And we are live. Thank you for joining us today. Great show today, jam packed show today. And we have 8 minutes on with us today. Jamie is here from the band, the drummer. Going to talk about all the things that are going on with them. In a few minutes, I will welcome my co host, Jonas from Kenya. We're going to talk a little bit about At the Mountain and kind of an update with the worship project there. Very, very exciting. But folks, I'm mostly excited that you're here today. Thank you. And if you're just joining me, you know the drill. Let me know where you're watching from or whatever else you'd like to tell me, but that especially. I love it that we have so many people from so many places joining us from all over the world. That's a really special thing. Speaking of special things, having a little bit of Headbangers Brew this morning. Mm-mm-mm-mm. Mm. So good. And of course, this is our fall blend, which is called pumpkin spice. And it's called not another pumpkin spice, but it's the best pumpkin spice that you'll ever have. And if you're a fan of pumpkin spice, and if you feel a little bit of autumn, a little bit of fall in the air, this matches it. This is awesome. Stephen Cole is here from Oklahoma, and we have some other Oklahoma friends that are joining us in just a minute. A friend, that's where our special band of the day, 8 minutes, is from. And Stephen, good to have you here. Victoria's here. She says, hey there. Hey there to you too. Folks, sign in. Let me know where you're watching from. If you would, it's again great to have you here. Really great to have you here. I appreciate all of you that are joining us, and I'm learning that most people watch the show after it's already aired, and people ask me, why is it at such a strange time during the day? Wouldn't it be better to have it at night or this time or that time? But the biggest problem that we have is that it's an international show, and 9 a.m. Central Time, 10 a.m. Eastern Time is a time that we can capture most of the world while they're still halfway awake. Those of you that are watching in Australia, it's about midnight there right now, and then in India and other places, it's a strange hour, but people are able to join us. It's not such a stretch. And so that's why we do this time. But if you're watching live or if you're watching, um, at another time, welcome and sign in anyway. Even if you're watching another time, I love going through those and just seeing where you're watching from. So please, whether you're watching live or recorded, sign in. AV is here today. How are you? He says, I'm doing great. Thank you, AV. Do you know Meadows bassist Brendan Debs passed away? I didn't know that. That's too bad. That's really sad news, isn't it? Yeah, very sad news for the hardcore scene. Sorry to hear that. Well, thank you, AV, for letting us know. Yeah. Folks, once again, sign in. Stephen and Sharon wanted to let you know my mom is home from the hospital. Great. I talked to you about her at Immortal Festival, and I remember that. And so happy that she's home. That's great. Yeah, we got to take good care of our moms. Yeah. My mom is right in the other room, and um, we have a great time together. We live in this log cabin together, and it's always been great. Albert is here from driving in Saskatchewan in Canada, and appreciate all of those that are sitting in a chair watching, driving and watching. However, and some people listen to it because they're not able to watch. That's fine too. However, you're joining us. Thank you for that. And really, really great to have you here. Harvey is here. Good morning to you, Harvey. Again, folks, let me know where you're watching from. It's just an interesting thing, isn't it? to see our metal family from all over the world, joining us and being part of this great broadcast. I want to say thank you to our wonderful producer, John Cassandro, also for making this happen and happen so effortlessly. He's really good at this, and this show would not exist without him. He's really great. And thank you, John, once again, as always, for doing such a great job. So, folks, I want to bring on our co-host for today. He doesn't need an introduction if you follow this show. I've had him on before. Great friend. And not only is he a good-looking guy, but he's a cool guy, too. Jonas, good morning.
Thank you. I'm already married, so you don't need to sell me to anybody. I'm already married.
So Jonas is from Denmark, and that's where I met him many, many years ago. He's been here in Nashville visiting me a few times, and so great, always great to see Jonas. Jonas now lives in Kenya, and Jonas, I want to catch up a little bit on the project. Now it's called At the Mountain, and it's a heavy metal worship project. And you have prepared a video for today. Do you want to set that up?
Yeah, I can. But actually, in the beginning of the video, I already set it up. I'm super prepared. So we can just roll it. Because actually, I have an introduction in the beginning. Just play.
Good. John? I think John.
Hey, this is Jonas from At the Mountain. Welcome to this video update. I know we've been a bit quiet of late. There was summer holiday in Europe. There was summer holiday in the US. In Kenya, it's not summer. It's actually raining cats and dogs everywhere. But however, the holidays did not prevent us from working together, despite us moving around, traveling around. That's the beauty of this kind of setup. I mean, we've been able to still keep writing on our songs because we do it independently and send files back and forth. And we've made a lot of progress, and we would like to share some of it with you. So please just watch our updates. We have a lot of great things happening. So new songs coming out. We also have the first shows that we're starting to book now. In Kenya, in Africa. We're also booking shows in Denmark for March next year. So doors have just been opened, and we are super excited about it and looking forward to it. So we just want to give you a quick update, and if you have any questions, we can just discuss afterwards here in the live chat. All right. Watch, enjoy, and yeah, we'll be in touch with all of you afterwards during the chat. Hey there, we're out here picking a piece. African piece, I think they call pigeon piece, but getting ready to make some lunch.
Responsible things like that. You always got to at least find out afterwards when you play with deadly animals. So, here we are. We are hanging out this morning in beautiful Kenya. This is Bironi, Kenya. Just got water down here from a natural spring that goes through a rock from the mountain, which is hidden behind the clouds that way. And so, members of At the Mountain, actually at the mountain, getting water. Gonna have a nice mountain water. Oh
yeah.
Hey, wait, should we bottle it and sell it? Perfect. It's free range, organic at the mountain water.
Coming up soon.
Yes. So here we are. We had our coffee today, so we're brilliant. Obviously, gonna have a good recording day. Nailed it.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. So the project is great. It's going really well. You guys are doing a great job. Good music. How are you feeling about it?
I'm actually very surprised that we got this kind of quality coming out of it with this kind of setup that we have. And remember when we started playing together, it's only about 6 months ago, and we just got material for like these 14 songs that came out in within a week of being together, and now we've been starting to what do you say, to polish the songs and start adding words to them as well, and we just super amazed about what comes out, and we can see, month by month that it's getting better and better. The quality is improving, both in terms of the sound, in terms of our own skills. A lot of us guys are rusty. We've not played for a long time, and suddenly we're now together in a new formation like this. So yes, it's just great to see the improvement month by month. And I remember that was one of the advices you also gave back in that was in end of February, after we had the first practice. We had the 14 songs, and you said, all right, now polish and play it skillfully. So that's what we're working on now, and we can see improvements. Yeah,
That's awesome. Well, it sounds so good. And folks, I appreciate what these guys are doing, and I know I speak for everyone watching us, so we can't wait till the whole project is released. And Jonas, this is a move of God right now. It's a move of God in worship in our family, in our heavy metal family, and gosh, I feel it everywhere. I hear it from everyone. You've had some great worship times here. I know you have there and other places around the world. We're going to be doing a worship podcast. Jonas is going to be one of the guys on the podcast, and there will be 4 of you. And we're excited to get that going, and it will be live as well, just like this show, once a month. And I'm excited for these guys not only to talk about worship, but to kind of document what's going on in our whole worship community. So, Jonas, there are a lot of different kinds of worship, and I wanted to share something that happened this last Sunday. We the police chief here in Mount Juliet is one of my best friends, and we do a podcast called The Odd Couple, and we're odd because we're an odd match. He's bald.
Why are you an odd?
Yeah.
He's bald and you have long hair. That's the only difference.
Yeah. He doesn't have any hair. He's black. I'm white. He's, totally different culture, all of that, and yet we're very close friends. But he also pastors a church, and so we had the mashup. We had Sanctuary and his church, Christian Mission, or Missionary Baptist Church, kind of get together and spend some great time in worship and in fellowship, and then James and I bring a message also, where we just kind of do it together and talk and have a subject that we expound on, and just, such a great, great time. I thought maybe we'd show a little video from that also, because it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, sure.
It's a lot of fun, isn't it?
Actually, it is, but it's great to see. One thing I noticed now, my wife is Kenyan, so she's also black. And what I noticed here from the singer, the lead singer here, the lady singing in the video, she has these expressions like the and the stuff in between, and it's so familiar to me because my wife does exactly the same thing. They have the or the or different sounds coming in between. It's kind of like an exclamation mark, like after a sentence saying, yes, this is to really say this is really it, and it's just funny because, as you say, there are different styles of worship and different styles of music, but to use that to underline or underpin something, it's the same we do in metal music, in hardcore music. Hardcore, we always have this kind of thing where people will before breakdown or after breakdown will go like, blah. And
it's true. That's true. That we have that in common.
Yeah, we actually have that in common. So as much as the sound is different, but we have a lot of things in common.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Jonas, there are some phenomenal musicians here. Schmitty on the drums.
Mm-hmm.
Used to play with the Platters. I don't know if you know who the Platters are, but they were one of the bands of years gone by. They had many #1 hits. He played with the Platters. Della Reese, who was a great singer, and the organist also, bands that you would know. These are really professional musicians, but we come in and they just nurture us, and they go, no, you play, you're doing a great job, and they encourage us, and we feel like we're being mentored by these great guys. That, well, let's do one more clip, John. I want to show you a little more. Yeah. I think we have another clip. Just so much fun. So we've
Yeah,
decided to do this on whenever there's 5 Sundays in a month, we've decided to do it every fifth Sunday. So about 4 times a year, and just a great time. A lot of
that's
fun.
amazing.
Yeah, it really
Yeah.
is. So, folks, I want to announce also that we have a really great weekend coming up. The Sanctuary Gathering is this weekend. And this time we have a kind of a sobering subject. We're exposing the truth about human trafficking. Got some folks that we work with that work directly with human trafficking, trafficking women, trafficking children. They've got a lot of things to share, answering questions. I'm going to have a panel discussion with them, and it's going to be just a really great time. In fact, let's watch this video that kind of set it up for the weekend. Coming up, our promo video, John, for the weekend. He's got it here somewhere. Somewhere.
Otherwise, in the meantime, I can also mention while he looks for it that I know this is something that's actually quite close to us here in Kenya as well, because right now there's never been more slaves exported out of Kenya than during this present day.
Yes.
And it's people who are sent out and sold for sex trafficking. And even we have UN reports that are confirming the same. And it's more than during the colonial time where people were ferried out.
Yes.
And so the numbers are actually higher now, but for sex trafficking. So it is a big problem, and we see it even here in Kenya. Yeah.
Very sad. Do you know that there are 50 million people being trafficked internationally right now? Right now, as we speak, 50 million. It's
Yeah, I
a
didn't know it was that high a number. And yeah, wow.
huge problem that people just aren't talking about. So we're doing that on Saturday, of course, on Sunday, our regular church service. John, do we have that video promo for the weekend? Not sure if he does.
No.
It's quiet.
But here in Kenya, the numbers are quite high, and it's mainly around the coast. So what happens is people come, or young people, especially, or young families, will have maybe 4, 5, or 6 kids, but cannot afford to take care of all of them or pay school fees and so on. So several of those kids might be sold off. Sometimes the parents are aware of where they're going, sometimes they're not aware. But we see it happening a lot here, especially at the coastal region of Kenya.
Yes.
And there are some specific towns in Kenya where this is happening, mainly Mtwapa, Malindi, and so on. And from there, they're sailed out in boats and they go on the big container vessels that are going out of here. And then they're offloaded somewhere typically in either Middle East or in Italy or in southern part of Europe. And then from there, distributed. So we know it's a big problem even in Kenya. And it's
Yeah.
actually a problem that's rising. It's not going down. It's actually increasing. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the one of the biggest problems that nobody's talking about.
Mm.
And it's because the people involved in it are government officials, are CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, people that are very much almost untouchable, and nobody wants to talk about it. And so, I think we're going to be forced to discuss this real soon, especially as the information comes forward with the Diddy arrest. His lawyer just said yesterday that they will be releasing all the names, and they're pretty much the same names that are on the Epstein list. And you're talking about presidents, you're talking about heads of state, you're talking about a lot of people that are involved in sponsoring child trafficking and taking advantage of of children and trafficked women. So it's a big problem that we need to do something with, and as Christians, that we need to be involved with. So it's just something near and dear to my heart. We work with it almost every day here, and the more we work with it, the more we learn about it. The more angry I get that we're not doing as much as we need to do to stop this horrible thing. Yeah.
But actually, that's part of, and yes, it's something we need to discuss, but we also need to find out how can we prevent the root cause. It's not enough to give a painkiller to treat cancer. You need to also grab it by the root and see where does the problem come from. The problem also comes from people who lives in desperation, who need money or have, let's say, a single mother. Suddenly, somebody became a single mother. In a lot of these cultures and countries here, she will not be able to own land or take care of that child or those children she has. And the boys might be more valuable than the girls, so she will sell off the girls for money.
Wow.
So it is a really sad situation, but it comes out of desperation. So I also believe that doing business with these people here and with these countries is a way to, financial growth also means you have stability. If you have financial stability, you also don't want to give up your kids because you love them.
Yes.
So I also believe that looking at it from a different angle, instead of only talking about who's consuming the sex trafficked kids, we also need to look at why are people even availing them for sex trafficking.
Yes, absolutely.
Huge. And that's one of the things, for instance, Terry, our bass player here at the mountain, him and his wife, that's part of what they're working on. See, they've set up, or they're building right now a rescue center. They've bought land in Kimana in Kenya, and they're setting up this rescue center to also help women who are coming with, the single mothers, so that they can get help, the kids can get help, so they don't have to sell off their kids or end up in these kind of dilemmas and situations. Yeah.
Wow, that's huge. That is huge. So Jonas, our good friend Simone, is saying, "Oh,
hey Simone, way good to see you. It's been a long time. Hey, Simone and I, we used to travel around with Solace the Day back then, and also with the Sanctuary Denmark. Man, good to see you.
Married to Adam Cook from a Hill Diapon now, and they will be here this weekend, by the way, at our sanctuary gathering. So
nice.
Looking forward to seeing them again. David Kelly White is here. I want more. Please get this out now. He's talking about you're at the mountain. See, there you go.
Don't worry, David. We'll get more, and it will come really soon.
It'll come really soon. I like that. Well,
actually, by really soon, I mean, we're starting to do live shows, like I mentioned. So we're going to meet up in next month to start practicing for live shows. So Morten will travel down here as well to Kenya. We'll start practicing, getting things ready for live shows. We'll do a few practice shows here in Kenya, but then also getting ready for shows in Denmark in March. So for people, if anybody watching from Denmark, know that we're also coming in March, and we'd love to see you there.
Yes, we would. And by we, I mean you and I would both love to see them there.
Yeah, true.
I will be there with you in Denmark.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to be back in Denmark, by the way, in March. And we're planning a great worship experience there. So that'll be a lot of fun. Yes.
Yes.
So we have a great band with us today, Jonas. And if you've heard 8 Minutes, folks, you know they're a great band. 4 albums out. Great band from Oklahoma here in the States. And, we have, you have a fellow drummer. Jamie will be with us. He's the drummer for the band, kind of leading the band, really. But Jamie will be here in just a minute with us. And we're excited to see what 8 Minutes is up to these days. Folks, we're going to be right back. Don't go anywhere. Greetings from the Sanctuary Storehouse. Just want to remind you that our next gathering is October 5th. Would love to have you here. We're going to be talking about the truth behind human trafficking, and it's going to be a A heavy subject, got a great panel of experts. Want to give you some information, but also a great time together as a family with food, with teaching, the panel, lots of great fellowship, and of course our worship band and so much more, folks. Put it on your calendar, 3 p.m. Saturday, October 5th, right here at the Storehouse. Our great merchandising company, Anchor Merchandising, and we've got a whole lot of things available. Folks, also don't forget our fall blend, which is not another pumpkin spice, and that and all of our swag, our t-shirts, our posters, our mugs, all of our cool stuff. We Are Metal, We Are Family shirts too. All of those things available at wearemetalwearefamily.com. Well, I'm excited to welcome Jamie with us today. Jamie from 8 Minutes, and he's live with us today. Are we ready to go? I can't see what's going on. There he is.
Hey, Pastor, how you doing?
Good to see you.
Likewise, likewise.
Yes.
I got to make one minor correction here. It's 13 minutes.
What did I say?
8 minutes. I mean, that could be my side project, but you know, we have been 12 minutes before too.
Dude, I'm so sorry, and I know better too. I don't know what I was thinking.
If we had a V right there, then we would be.
Jonas back on with us too, if you would. I'd like him to join us as well. Jamie, again, great to have you on the show today. I love the music and I love what you guys are doing. Now, I had thought that you guys broke up a few years ago, and then I was surprised to see you still going. Is that what happened, or?
Well, you know, sometimes on the journey, God says rest, and I had gotten to a place where we were not in unison any longer, and God said, hey, you need to take a break. And honestly, I didn't know what that meant at the moment. And the great thing about rest and the great thing about silence is it gives you time for clarity. And my question was really, God, are we done? I mean, it was a legitimate question, and if we were, I wanted to be obedient to that direction. And I never honestly received any kind of confirmation other than rest, breathe, lean in, and gain clarity. And so that's what I did. And along the journey, God continued to really, I mean, there were things just in my heart that needed to be healed, some things in my path that I needed clarity for direction. And after a little bit of time away, I got it. And God said, well, here is an open door, and here are your new guys, and well, here we are.
And the rest is history, as they say.
As they say.
Yeah.
Man, I got to say that is very interesting to hear. For me, I felt kind of the same, you know. When I moved to Kenya, it was kind of like I didn't know why or how or what to do or anything. So we moved here and I kind of lost music. That was now out of the equation. I had to sell my drum kit. I had to sell everything to move here. And I kept feeling that God told me to move here. I did not understand why. And
Yeah.
I remember, Bob, we had a couple of talks about it during the years, and you just said, be patient and wait.
Mm-hmm.
And it took 10 years for me to get the pause and the break I needed. But suddenly now it all came together. And now I can, it hit me in October last year. Boom! I could just feel this is it. It's gonna happen now. And it was even before we met together as a band. I could just feel something moving in the spirit, and God said, "Now it's happening. Now is the time."
Yeah.
So
I love that.
I fully understand exactly what you just described. I mean, because I felt exactly the same on my own body. Yeah.
Yeah. And you never know what God's up to until you get to the heart of the matter. And Jamie, like you're saying, it's a matter of really searching your heart, but also searching God's heart. God, what do you have for me? We can go one way or the other. We can be like Aaron, when he's what with Moses, and Aaron says, "Lord, here I am, send him." you know?
Right.
Or we can say, "Lord, use me," and there's a big difference between the two. But seeking God and making sure that your direction is solid. I think for you, Jonas, God wanted you to establish your family and your first ministry, which is your family. Did you
Amen.
find some of that true for you as well, Jonas or Jamie?
Well, before I got back into this music stuff, God really brought me through a process of realizing, as much as I love what this is and what we do and what we get to be part of, that it will never be greater than the ministry of my family.
Yes.
And so that was, as a young believer, that was something I think God knew I needed to get reinforced in my life before He opened any other doors for me. And even with going back into this, my son, he was young. And, so the question was always about how I can be a present dad and still do this, but keep priority in my life. And the great thing about it is through this journey, my wife was really the fulcrum. We began to homeschool when he was in third grade. And as a result of being a homeschooling family, I've been able to take my son out on the road with me, and he's gotten to experience this great community that we're part of, and got great stories about meeting some of these great artists. And it's so funny now because he's older and he's like, well, they're just people. And I'm like, he's so different than me because I had stars in my eyes when I was a kid, like, oh my gosh. And but he's a lot more tempered as a result of the journey he's gotten to walk with his dad. So that's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. And there isn't a greater blessing, Jamie, than your family. I know you agree, Jonas. That it's the greatest blessing that God gives you. And I appreciate that you've both put your families first. So let's talk a little bit about the music itself, Jamie. And if you were to describe the musical style for those that maybe aren't really aware of what 13 minutes sounds like, how would you describe it?
Man, that is a really good question. That is that is one I've combed over and combed over and combed over. But at the end of the thought trail, I guess we would be called alternative metal.
Yeah.
Fancy way of saying that there's really not a defining genre tag, but we are influenced from the likes of bands like Breaking Benjamin, Chevelle, Red. So a lot of groove. We love the heavy elements, but we want some melody as well. So alternative metal would probably be the right genre tag.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. And I have to tell you, Breaking Benjamin is one of my favorite bands
Oh,
too.
I love them.
I love that style. They're really good at it.
Speaking of a band that we thought was dead and gone and had a great resurrection.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. So, and that was a difficult time for all those guys. Coldplay was kind of upstaging, and I always felt like Breaking Benjamin was a better band than Coldplay, but
100% agree.
my opinion. And but they kind of won out, and yeah, it is good to see them back. I like that part.
It is, and doing well too.
Yes. So the mechanics of the band, and Jonas, you guys have just gone through. Jamie, they sat down and wrote, what was it, 13 songs, 14 songs? What?
14 songs in 4 days.
In 4 days.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a worship project, and everything just flowed. It's miraculous. Most songs take a little longer than that, but
They,
yeah. But so, what does the songwriting look like? Is it a corporative effort from the whole band? Is it one person that writes?
Well, I think just really where we're at right now, our guitarist Thomas is an amazing songwriter. And he's got just phenomenal ideas. And so Thomas will typically bring an idea, and I'll sit with it, and we'll come over it. There's a we want to make sure before it gets any legs, we want to make sure that it's lyrically sound, going in the direction and the messages that we want to give it. So I'll get involved because even though I'm a drummer, lyrics are high priority for me. I understand that when most of the general population are listening, it's going to be the lyrics that grab them first. And so we want to make sure we're careful in that regard. From there, we'll take it over to Jared, our vocalist, and Jared will give his spin on it and maybe change up some of the lyrics or present some different ideas. And then we'll start really getting I would say, a skeleton structure for the song. We've all committed that we're really not going to finalize a song until it goes into the studio. And we love working with third-party producers who bring new ideas and maybe see things that we didn't see. And at that point in time, we'll go ahead and get it recorded, and then it'll be final. Up until that, it's pretty fluid.
Yeah, I love that, and it all comes together. And God uses so many different kinds of people to make something work and to give it a kind of a cohesiveness. And I love that it's a team effort, that you guys are using a team effort. Great music. Folks, if you haven't heard the band, check it out and listen to some of their stuff. I want to talk about something unrelated to the band.
Okay.
But I heard that you are an advocate for foster care.
Yes, sir.
Dude, it is definitely on my heart. I would love to see what you're doing. So tell us a little bit about that ministry.
Well, I will try to make a very, very long story very, very short. I cannot really relay the impact of why we do what we do without really going to the beginning. Me and my wife were freshly married, living in Houston, Texas, and we didn't know anybody. So we were attending this church, and they were looking for volunteers for this Christmas party. And my wife, if you have ever met her, she loves Christmas. I don't know if there's many people that love the Christmas season more than she. So it was an obvious, we're going to volunteer. And so we signed up, and we get to the party, and they're giving us the rundown of expectation. And they start telling us things like this: don't ask the kids' names. Don't ask about their home life. Don't ask about their parents. Just be there to listen. Like, God, this doesn't sound like a very fun party at all. But we were there to serve. And so we wanted to honor what was being asked of us. So we get into the party, and it was full of kids. And this little kid, he was a little boy, 8 years old. And I didn't ask him. He, like a lot of 8-year-olds, wanted to tell me. He wanted to tell me about all that he wanted for Christmas, and just a great little conversationalist. And he was little did he know he was about to change the trajectory of this man's life. But he was pretty normal by all 8-year-old accounts, except for one glaring difference, and that he had been burned on over 80% of his body by his parents.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
Exactly. And what we did not realize at that point in time is who court-appointed special advocates were, and also known as CASA. And they are a nationwide effort to support kids who have been, I would identify it or describe it as a witness protection program for kids who come from the most terrible situations that you can imagine. And the CASA becomes the voice for the kid in the system. fast forward, I'm getting back into music again, and I had a simple prayer. Lord, help me to make this thing more than about me. I don't want it to be a narcissistic endeavor. I want it to be about serving my Father, serving my community. And so we get to Christmas that first year. I'm like, it's not a novel idea, but let's do a Christmas party. And I was talking to my wife about it. So we're trying to figure out who we want to really work on behalf. And we start reflecting back to our moment with that little 8-year-old boy. And so I look to see if Tulsa's got a casa, and I call him. And I really didn't know how to introduce this thing, but I the voice on the other end of the line picked up, and I said, hi, my name is Jamie. I was just checking to see if you guys do a Christmas party here for your organization. And they're like, yes. Like, well, hey, I'm in a heavy metal band, and we'd really like to help you. 60 seconds of really awkward silence. And she said, what do you have in mind? So I just lay out this idea. Nothing novel. We're going to do a Christmas show. We're going to bring in gifts, and we're going to see if we can help these kids during the holidays. And so she said, well, we'd like that very much. They've been struggling with gifts because they get kind of the last of what's left of Toys for Tots. And so we get out there, and I'm getting this idea out, have no reputation, no resources, just an idea and the arrogance to believe that I can do it. And again, a great wife. So we do this, and it was not as big as I'd hoped. We didn't bring in as many presents as we hoped. But I get my truck, I load everything up, and I take it down to the organization. And I get a couple volunteers to help me get these presents, and I pop open the trunk of my vehicle ready to apologize. And I was not prepared for what happened next. The volunteers that came down started crying. And I'm not ready for this, so I do what any normal person's going to do. I start crying with them. And they're like, we can't believe this happened. And so I'm thinking to myself, going, God, I wanted to do more. And so we get everything loaded in, and I'm talking to the director of this casa, and I'm walking out the door saying our thank yous, and she stops me and she says, Jamie, we really appreciate what you've done for us. If you would consider doing it again, these kids are moved from home to home with no warning, and somebody comes and gets them. In most cases, they're putting what little they have in a plastic bag or a pillowcase. It would be really wonderful if we could give these kids dignity. And we really have a great need for suitcases, duffel bags, things that they can pack up and that aren't plastic bags. And I'm like, well, Paula, I said, now that you mention it, I'm going to do it. So I had only thought it was going to be one event. And so I walk out the door not knowing anything, of how I'm going to do this next event. But I start planning event number 2. Event number 2 ended up turning into 7 years of supporting the great workers in our communities here in the Tulsa area that are really on the front lines of child abuse and the fight against it, and just to bring awareness to it. We ended up serving 9 counties in our area. Child Abuse Network, Tulsa Advocates for the Protection of Children, court-appointed special advocates, over 6,000 presents delivered to these kids that have been removed from their homes.
Wow.
And I, in the process of it, I learned a couple of things about myself. And I remember I was trying to speak at one of the events one year, and I was going to share my story, because when you're growing up, you don't realize that some of the things you're dealing with isn't normal. For a kid, it's life. Mm-hmm. And as I started discovering what these kids dealt with, it just dawned on me as, holy smokes, I've dealt with a lot of the same things. The difference is I wasn't removed. But I was about to share my story about poverty, living homeless, a mom who was wrapped up in addiction, the abuse that was suffered in our home. And I'm sitting there like, my hands are sweating. I'm like, if my mom ever heard me say these words, there would be no there would be no reconciliation. We would never talk again. And I'm saying, like, I'm a grown man. I should not be nervous about, the truth. But here I am, just nervous about my story. And I shared it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I hope she never hears this. But I knew I needed to share it. And so for me, it was my joy, and it's still my joy to be a voice in our community for these kids and the great people who work on their behalf. And this is just kind of one small thing that we can do.
So important. So important. And, honestly, the foster care children are some of the most forgotten kids around. Now, we work with foster care on the other side of it. We feed the homeless on the streets. And I know that about May and June, we're going to have an influx of foster kids on the streets. We plan for it every year because they've opted out of the program. Now they're too old to be in foster care. And there aren't any safety nets to catch them. There are a few churches that are trying to establish things right now because it's a glaring problem. But a lot of those that hit the streets will stay on the streets for a very long time. There's absolutely no place else for them to go. So that doesn't have to happen if we just get involved. So adoption is a big deal. And I understand that adoption is, you're really inviting a whole ministry because they don't have your genes. They don't have your, it's probably going to be inviting a stranger who will not act and relate like you do because they have a totally different mindset, a totally different gene pool, et cetera, et cetera. And I have a lot of firsthand experience with that. But it is up to us as Christians to take care of, those people that are really struggling. Jonas, as you were saying, those moms that are forced to give away their children because they can't afford them. Wouldn't it be great for the children to stay with the mom and help support her so she can take care of her children? And there, of course, there are many children that need to be removed from their families, like the little boy you were just talking about. But the church really has to be involved here. And man, Jamie, I appreciate your heart because that's this is a really important thing for all of us to be involved in, isn't it?
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah, Jamie. Yeah, thank you for sharing. That was really inspiring to hear.
Yes, very much.
Like Bob, like you said, I think a lot of it is also to look at how can we prevent it. Like we said earlier, talked about earlier. We need to look at the root cause, and the root cause typically is desperation in the family. So there are some that could stay with the families, whether it's for economic reasons or whatever. But if we can find out what are the reasons, why are these kids being exposed to these kind of things or put in these situations? So look at the root cause instead of symptom treatment only. And for instance, adoption is great because it helps the kid for those families where they really need to get away from the family.
Yes.
So that's really good, really great. But how can we prevent it from even getting to that point in the first place?
Yeah.
And I think that's where there is a lack of focus or a lack of conversation, because it's kind of like a taboo to talk about and to look at.
I think you're right on. The conversation is a big deal. And oftentimes what we find, especially for kids who've come out of it, is the shame that they felt. Just without going too deep into, there's a great study called The Bridges Out of Poverty. And it was a very life-changing thing for me. And it helps people understand mindsets. One of the things that I've learned to have, and I don't excuse it, but it's grace. As I begin to understand what came before me and the things of that nature, I have been granted the opportunity to correct it in my life and then maybe present it and set my son up for something better, but also speak to others about it who are like me. There's a lot more of us than we think. I ran into a friend of mine not long ago that I went to high school with. And we're adults now, and she looks at me and she says, and we're talking, and she's like, I didn't realize you were homeless your senior year of school. I was too.
Mm.
And I was like, well, it's not anything that we talk about. It's not anything we share. And rightfully so. In school, you're like, I don't want anybody to know about this stuff. But you learn that there's so many more out there. And I tell people this: God gave me two gifts. He gave me a big mouth. I mean,
Amen.
he gave me a big mouth, and he gave me the gift of music. And
Mm.
I intend to use both of them to do what I can to be a good ambassador, to help others, to be a voice, and really, and I of course give it up to God, because, I mean, God, the work can be overwhelming if you don't allow Him into the midst of it all.
Yeah, that's awesome. And there are so many of the forgotten people around us. And once again, this weekend at our gathering, we're doing a panel with people who full-time work with human trafficking. Human trafficking is everywhere. A whole lot of people that are being trafficked come out of the foster care system.
Yes.
And we can talk about even some foster care organizations who are trafficking children.
Yes.
Sadly, it's happening. And I know I probably just opened up a can of worms, but it is happening. And so it is such a widespread thing. We have to start valuing our children. And can I just go on a soapbox for a minute?
Do it.
Mm-hmm.
When we don't recognize the value of our children, when we let them make decisions at a young age to become the other sex, to become transsexual, to when we make statements like, well, there's not just male and female, but there's, 32 different kinds of genders now. What? When we raise them this way, we take away the family unit, and children in a few states right now can get that surgery, life altering surgery, without the consent of their parents.
Right.
And so this is really a big deal. The unit of the family is being torn apart like it never has before. Our education system is working against the family values. And so many things. One of the reasons that people homeschool is because they know they're going to lose their kids if they send them to public school. And our universities are becoming a hotspot for communism and other forms of extreme government, where it's more of a dictatorship than anything else. And we see that happening here in the United States and all around the world. And folks, until we start to value human life, until we start to realize that the nucleus of the family is the foundation of our society, and the health of the family dictates the health of our society around us too. So, Jamie, kudos to you, and thank you for being involved with that. And I'm excited to hear that Terry is doing the same thing there, and in Kenya too. And there's such a need for this kind of thing all over the world. So, thank you.
You make a great point. To your point, as a dad, as a very proud dad, by the way, I certainly would love if nobody hears anything that I've said today, be a dad, be a really active, engaged, good dad. Love
Yes.
your wives, and
Yes.
be that example. You talk about the family. That's how we're going to make the changes. It starts in our homes.
You know, we could go another 3 hours and talk about this.
Yes, sir.
Really important things. And Jonas and Jamie, let's the three of us get back together again point in the future and talk more about this.
Yeah, I'd love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I actually thought we were going to spend the whole time talking about drums today. We
didn't.
It's a different term, but this is more interesting and more important. So yeah,
your drummers. Yeah, exactly. Well, folks, thank you for joining me. And next week, Ken Templin will be here. We're going to spend some time with Ken. My co host will be Peter Stenlin from Sweden, Peter from Laudamus, great albums. Ken Templin produced their last one, and they're in the studio again. So we want to talk about that. And then we have a lot of questions for Ken. He's been a great friend for decades, many decades, and I'm excited to have him on the show and have him share his heart with you. Folks, once again, I always say this, but I mean it. Don't forget, you are blessed. So go and be a blessing.